Hello, everyone. My name's Diane Broussard, and this is my Gateway show on Beyond Being Human. I am so happy and pleased today to be interviewing two of my very dear friends, and we're going to be talking about a subject that is very dear to me also. It's called the essence of life, and it's not something that I think we can talk about in terms of what is the essence of life. It is a workshop that Julieanne Conard, welcome Jules, by the way, and Michele Castro, welcome Michele. Both Michele and Julieanne conduct this workshop, The Essence of Life, and actually they have one coming up in November, the 1st of November. It's a 4-day workshop. It deals with something that has to do with source energy. This is something that needs to be experienced and not anything I can talk about. But Julieanne, my friend, can you please tell us a little bit about your story, how you started from a young college girl studying to be a doctor and ending up working with the Stargate experience and doing Stargate workshops literally all over the world in over 65 countries. Channeling a guide named Alcazar who taught you about the essence of life. Can you kind of talk to us about that?
Yeah, thanks, Diane. It's such a pleasure to be chatting with you about the essence of life. And we can't really talk about the essence of life without talking about the Stargate. So behind me, there's a 6.5 foot tall sacred geometrical structure. This is the Stargate, and it's channeled by Prageet Harris back in '89. It wasn't until 2012 that I met Prageet, and I actually met Michele around the same time. So we've known each other for quite some time now. My awakening to metaphysics was super fast. I got into reconnective healing because a 15-year-old girl who I met at a soupy dancing night who could see auras brought over a documentary about energy healing. And like you said, I was planning to study medicine, but I was really interested in learning like the hard science and combining it with the alternative medicine perspectives. And basically, I really wanted to be a healer. And so I saw this documentary, and it was showing how it starts with this story of a little boy who's 5 years old in Greece who has an instant healing. And as I was watching it, I was like, this is real. I'm going to go learn it. A friend of mine actually loaned me the like $700 or whatever to take this course, which for me was like a lot at the time. And I remember sitting in that seminar room on the first day, and I was like, oh no, this better actually be real, because I hadn't like gone out and gotten a session with somebody for like $100. I just went all in based on this intuitive hit. The seminar started, and it was basically practicing this form of energy healing. And it was absolutely real. And the very first time I felt the field around me, I remember it felt like I was surrounded by angels. And I was like, I didn't even necessarily believe in angels at the time. So I was like, okay. But it felt so beautiful. And it was like funny because it felt like they were whispering in my ear that my whole life was a joke, but in like the best way possible. Like it was this kind of like collapsing of seriousness and this opening to this totally like higher consciousness perspective. And so I remember thinking in that seminar, like, I don't want to just use these energies for healing. Like, I want to be in these energies. And within 2 weeks of that, I found the Stargate quite by accident online. Decided to go to my first Stargate evening, which was in Placerville, actually, which is where you have your Diamond Springs Spiritual Center. And basically what happened quite unexpectedly, I opened the living room door. There's a 6.5 foot Stargate in there. And it felt like this breeze, like pushed my head back. And I was like, okay, something interesting is going to happen. And I was walking in the hallway to use the restroom before the evening started when I saw Prageet's face for the first time. And his face wasn't on the online thing. So I kind of expected him to be this like Indian guy because his name's Prageet, but he's this like British dude. And I see his face and I have suddenly this deja vu feeling, but it feels like I'm remembering the future. And it came with three feelings. My whole life's about to change. I'm going to travel the whole world, and it's going to be the greatest adventure I've ever been on. And so I literally remember looking at myself in the bathroom mirror after that, it's like with this smile on my face because it felt so good. But I was like, okay, we'll see what happens. Like, there's no way I'm going to try to make this happen. Like, that's wild. Like, I hadn't even experienced the Stargate yet at that point. Basically, I did experience the Stargate, and Alcazar introduces in the Stargate work these different guides in this high vibrational field, and you can actually feel them bringing their energy in. So, for example, he brings in the angels almost always first. And I was like, I knew it because I had felt them in the field with reconnective healing, but I didn't get any confirmation. So essentially, what happened for me is Alcazar eventually said that if Prageet had stopped doing the Stargate work, I would have picked it up and kept doing it. And when I heard that, it was like 2 months after my first Stargate evening. And I was so honored because at the time, the Stargate was just the coolest thing I had ever experienced. That's kind of how it all started for me. And I'm actually curious for Michele if she can say a few words, because Michele was already part of Prageet's Stargate community, which was very small in those days. So Michele, do you want to say something about how you started with it?
I'm getting goosebumps listening to Jules's story. And mine is somewhat similar in the sense that one day I had just become a new mom and I was feeling very isolated from some of the spiritual communities and work that I had been doing. And so I knew I had that calling for something. And I was walking through this little mall, and these Reiki healers called me in and said, we'll give you a reading for $25 or donation. And they were practicing their Reiki healing. And in the reading, they were saying to me that I was going to be connecting with the angels. And I thought it was nice and kept going on, with my life. And one day I'm driving in the car, and on the radio we have this local radio station here in Nevada County, California. And I hear this man channeling, and I had to pull over because what was coming through was so profound. And when I think back upon it, it was more the energies that were coming through. And I just became obsessed and thought it was necessarily something that my mother-in-law would like or another person would like. But I started becoming obsessed with it. And I remember peeking into the window of this yoga studio that was supposed to have it. And I finally made it to a Stargate event in our local library and met Prageet, who was just the sweetest man. And he invited me to go into the Stargate during this session. And when I went into the Stargate for the first time and he started bringing in the energies, I had this experience of almost being this ancient rock, like the side of a mountain, and holding this ancient energy that was so tired and yet so relieved that it was going to get to finally move. It almost felt like the energy of the rock began to crumble because I was getting in touch with it finally again. And so from there, I fell head over heels in love with the Stargate work. And the next time that Spriggy had an event, he told me that I should bring my 1-year-old daughter with me, which I thought was absurd. Yet he was really sure that she was welcome to come. And so my little daughter, Satori, started coming with me as I went through these events, these multidimensional energetic experiences that brought me in touch with these aspects of myself that I didn't even know. And in that, I was encouraged through Alcazar that I was going to be channeling, yet the linear part of my mind always resisted that. But there was always this inkling of knowing that there was this communication, there was this line of energy that was open and wanting me to explore. And it was guiding me almost as if there was somebody whispering in my ear all the time. And so while I continued to do the Stargate work and was taken into these very profound multidimensional experiences, I was also led to the work that I'm doing today. And one of the beautiful things I have to add is I remember the time when Jules showed up at this little intimate gathering in Mount Shasta in this beautiful home. And this young woman comes in. I mean, I wasn't that much older, but a little bit. And I fell in love with her immediately in the sense that her energy was just so beautiful and so pristine feeling in a way. And I had this knowing that she was going to travel all over the world with the Stargate, and she was going to be bringing these energies to a lot of people. And so it's beautiful to hear her say that she had that confirmation, because I was feeling that for her. And in that time, I was still nursing this young baby. I was in such a mama space. I mean, I still am. Yet it was this beautiful experience of feeling like I'm a mama, I'm a friend, and I'm a companion in this multidimensional adventure. So that's how this all began.
I am getting goosebumps myself from you guys, all over, because you're both so beautiful. Your story for me is so beautiful. And I have a similar story of how I had no clue about the Stargate, and I'm just driving up and to Mount Shasta, and this mountain just kicked my ass and said, there's something here. I mean, literally, it was like this big, somebody hit me in the back with a baseball and said, there's something here. I got introduced also to the Stargate several years ago. My second time there, and Jules, you probably won't even remember this, but you guys had like a 12-day intensive where there was like 10 of us that lived in a house all together, and we had Stargate every single day. And I knew nothing. I just jumped into this without, it's like I didn't have the money. I didn't want to sleep with somebody else in a same bedroom in a house. I mean, I didn't really want to do any of that stuff, but I just jumped in, and it absolutely, totally changed my life too. It was really, really amazing. And so I've been with you guys all this time, and I've been to, a couple of these Essence of Life workshops. And I know that there is just so much coming, especially now, because the energy from the Stargate and the people all over the world is coming together now in Egypt and Greece. So, the Essence of Life workshop is coming right after you guys get back from this huge, global workshop in Greece. And I can't even imagine how profound it will be. And I'm just, you know what? I feel, Michele, it's like there is this Egyptian goddess sitting in front of me. How how do you feel about this trip? Because for me, it's really huge what you are doing, both of you.
Well, I should probably backpedal a little bit and just share that during my time doing Stargate, it was in 2020, I believe during the pandemic or right after. That was right after I was introduced to Jules's Essence of Life work. And the Essence of Life work hit me in such a profound way. It put me in alignment with the magic and the mystery of divinity. And I want to say it's the divine feminine within me, yet I am aware that there is also a piece of this that courses through the masculine and feminine. So I don't think it belongs just to women. So I just want to add that. So as I was introduced to this energy, it was as if that inkling, that whispering in my ear, all of a sudden came to life and pronounced herself. And it pronounced herself while I was participating in this New Year's Stargate meditation retreat in the Mount Shasta home. And I look up and I see Jules across the way channeling, and I hear this voice, and it's the voice of the goddess Isis. And she began downloading to me and giving me this information, which I felt I didn't even know who Isis was, really. I had heard her name, yet had no real understanding. I didn't even know the myth around Isis and Osiris. And I became a little skeptic and felt that whatever this was more, this must be my imagination. So what I was downloaded was not to say anything or not to research her at all, and to just wait for the confirmations. And so I did that. And here I am some years later. And I can say that I've been channeling the energies of Isis, as well as getting lots of energies from some other of the gods and goddess realm, and bringing through that as well. Yet when it was known that I was going to Egypt, this experience almost put me in a dissociated place of, whoa, what is going to happen? I just felt almost like shut down. And what I was guided to through Isis is, oh, just wait, we're going to prepare you. And let's just say that this past month and a half, I am being wrung out, and I'm being prepared for this experience that I'm going to participate in when we get to Egypt. So like most of these experiences, it's just the mystery unraveling and revealing itself. And as much as I can just stay in the wonder and curiosity and be open to what's wanting to come through, and pay attention to how energy is speaking to me and what it wants to energetically, let's say, clean out from me, so that I can take in more of the frequencies and codes that I'm assuming I'm going to receive when I get there. I'm just being present to it all. And I can't even imagine, because the energies just keep building and building, and it's everything. It's scary. It's frightening. I'm amazed. I'm like a little child. I get butterflies. I get it all. So I can't say. I just bow to the feet of the goddess, and send gratitude and keep myself open as in servitude of her and the divine expression of totality here on earth.
Thank you, Michele. And I'm very, very excited also to see what's going to happen and what's going to come forth during that trip to Egypt and then later on to Greece. And I'm going to go back to you, Jules, because I'm curious again, because I understand that when you first learned of this essence of life, it was surprising to you also. And it was something that your guide, Channel Alcazar, worked with you with for a couple of years. How did that come about for you?
I just want to first say, like, Stargate, it's going to be the first time Stargate goes to Egypt. And it feels like something's going to cosmically, like a lock and a key, like it's some kind of cosmic, like, thing. I don't know, but it's really exciting and really interesting. And also right after that, we're going to Greece, and our guide Alcazar specifically said that, like, have 1,000 people there. And that's like the biggest thing we've done previously with Stargate was with like 550 people in Slovenia in 2019. So that was like, for me, like a huge stretch. I was like, come on, Pergi, do we really have to try to get 1,000 people? But it's like, we're on this epic journey. And what's going to happen with the 1,000 people is that we get to have this multiplier effect on the consciousness of humanity. And so it's just a ride, and it has been from the start. And so it's like, that's kind of with the essence of life. It was really part of the unfolding of early days for me with the Stargate. Just felt like such a spiritual adventure. And I think it's like that for so many of us when we first find traction on our spiritual journey and things start to like truly open from the experiential perspective, that it's just like, okay, the gates are open. Like, Diane, I love that you're calling this gateway. So it's like what flooded in for me was actually through a female cryon channel who's recognized by Lee Carroll. I got to have a session with her on Maui, Hawaii in 2012. And it was literally days before that Alcazar first started bringing his energy through me. And that I first got my like very first confirmation through that happening. I didn't even know it was happening. Prageet and I were like meditating together, and all of a sudden he was like, whoa, what is happening? And I was like, what? Like, I was just feeling the energy. And he was like, no, I feel Alcazar's energy all around me. And I've only ever felt it from the inside before. And so for me, that was my very first confirmation in like December 2012 of what I saw the very first time I came to the Stargate back in, I think it was like early October. So I had this opportunity to have a session with this beautiful woman from Bulgaria, who's a cryon channel. And she's actually asked us not to name her because she's deep in like the European business world now. But if she ever comes back, like, she's an exquisite channel. And the whole session was about the essence of life. And it's one of those sessions that you don't come with questions to, like, they just open up the channel and they say what they want to say to you. And so what Cryon was saying is that there's this energetic that's essentially the breath of life. And like, if you imagine holding a butterfly in your hand, there's this part of you that can decipher the living colors, the living sounds, the living sacred geometry that makes that what it is. But that it's not until the spirit of that thing breathes life into it that it becomes what it is. So it's this super esoteric concept, but Cryon was basically saying like that there's this connection to this energy that's wanting to come through me. And actually Cryon said something very interesting in that channeling. He's basically said that the Stargate is opening a doorway inside of me to know myself but that the work that I'm here to do is unique. And so I still feel like I'm walking through that doorway to truly know myself, so that whatever is truly unique as a contribution can be born, and is going to be born out of the mystery. And so I got this channeling from Cryon, and it was so gorgeous. And I still have the audio from that. And I didn't quite know how to access this essence of life. And so, like, slowly, gently, I kind of forgot about it until a couple of months later, I started to work with Prageet in personal sessions, one-on-ones. And a lot of inner child stuff was coming up for me at the time. Partly because Alcazar told me to stop smoking pot. And so, like, literally, so I did. I stopped cold turkey. And so, like, a lot of these, like, deep-seated issues started to arise. And I was on this accelerated journey where Preet and I had started working together. So, like, I had access to Alcazar in a way that, like, I don't think anybody else has. And it was beautiful because, like, essentially Alcazar's mastery lies in unlocking what limits us as human beings. So that's so often the inner child stuff. And so Alcazar starts taking me to the root of this essentially shutdown that happened through a shock and through, like, a severe, like, internalized sense of shame when I was a kid. What Alcazar told me is essentially because the first sexual exploration that I had when I was a kid, I was like 3.5, 4 years old. And I didn't know what it was. And so, like, it was like told to me I had to keep it a secret, and I did. And then I started to feel like the other person's guilt in this situation. And it, like, was building inside of me, and I didn't know what it meant. And it was this, like, deep, dark, shadowy thing. And finally I told my mom what was happening. And it was like I was hoping in telling her that, like, I would feel better. But actually what happened is, like, her face went white and she's like, I need to go talk to your father. And, like, I remember sitting and feeling the carpet as my parents were discussing this in the kitchen, like, just feeling like this sense of doom. And essentially, long story short, what happened is I felt like I, like, tore my family apart because nothing was ever the same after that. And so for some of us, we have, like, these very specific moments that we can recount. And so many limitations came out of that one thing. But the main thing that happened that Alcazar helped me with is that I, like, totally blamed my own, like, sexuality. And so I disconnected from it and pushed it down. And, like, even throughout my college years, like, there's just, like, some fundamental fragmentation that occurred. And so what Alcazar guided me to do was basically just to literally make contact with that part of myself again, and to say to my own sexuality, like, you're part of me. Like, this sexual energy is a part of me. And I'm not, like, it's not like this situation that happened wasn't actually my fault. All this inner child work to, like, essentially bring a sense of wholeness to, like, my deepest wound. But what was magic about this is as soon as I started to bring the energy of acceptance to my own sexual energy, and to be like, you can flow in my body again because your life energy, you're part of my overall energetic field. Like, I started to bring this energy of self-acceptance, of wholeness, and then boom. Sexual energy is one side of a coin. The essence of life is, like, the other side of that same coin. And So for me, what's so beautiful about this understanding is like the essence of life does not feel like sexual energy at all. It actually feels like the most pristine diamond-like expression. It feels like so pure, like diamond light pure. And so Alcazar started to teach me how to, like, as if it was like a bubble of energy, how to grow it in my first and second chakra, like basically like the base of my spine area, and how to like start to like move it through my body. And what would happen is like I would focus on aches and pains in my body, and the energy of the essence of life would be a bit like it was unclogging a drain. Like it would just start to like infuse into that area and just gently dissolve the ache or the pain. Alcazar would guide me to understand what emotions were being held in those parts of the body. And basically, like, that's how this work was born. It was born from this deeply intimate work that I did with Alcazar through Pergi over 2 years.
Thank you, Jules. That was like so beautiful and so completely what I think everyone needed to hear about what this work is, because it's very profound, and it's not anything that is a thing. It's something that you experience. And the way you described it was so beautiful. And I'm hoping everybody else can understand and feel that that's part of everyone. And it really unlocks, I mean, and I'm sure Michele will agree with me on this too. We're going through so much trauma right now, especially with women, and being still pushed back and still not understanding their worth. And it's deep, generations, and it's so generational. I have a 95-year-old mother, and I'm able to discuss with her lineage, her European lineage, and so many things. And so to be able to open this up, like you said, open the drain a little bit, and just like let this open up so that you can flower and be who you truly are. The way you described it is really beautiful. I thank you for that. And I'm hoping that many people will be able to, tap into this beautiful workshop that you're creating in November. And again, after the magnificent workshop that you guys are, the Stargate Energy in Greece and Egypt, there's just so much coming together. And I was able to listen the other day to Viviane, Chauvet, who is one of the presenters with the Stargate work. And I just have to say this because it was so beautiful. She brought through an Arcturian rock, and she goes, "This is what we're doing." And she showed all these hands around this rock like it's the earth, and just bringing up the energy of the earth. And for me, it was like huge. And that's where we're going with all of this, with all of this energy, the Stargate, what we're doing with everybody in the Stargate that has their own unique and profound abilities. And it's okay. Here at my center in Diamond Spring, people come here and they tiptoe in sometimes because they're afraid. Like, wow, I had a lady come in yesterday and she goes, "Did you guys feel that energy?" And when everyone could tell her yes, she was like, "Oh my, I've been waiting for that." So what we're doing on a whole is just really igniting humanity in a huge way. So I so appreciate you, Michele, the work that you're doing. I don't know. I don't know if does Alcazar have anything that he might want to add for us, Jules? I know we're going into some huge, giant steps forward. I'm just glad I'm a part of it. I just welcome everybody to say it's so beautiful that we're all a part of this energy. Michele has brought Isis in before on my show, and she was also had so many beautiful things to say about humanity at this time. So you guys being here is really a great gift for me and for everyone who's watching. So I thank you for that.
I feel that somehow humanity's on the precipice of some really big changes. And so maybe we'll see if Alcazar has anything to say about that. But I'm curious, Michele, because you started working with me with the essence of life because you had an instant resonance with this energy and you work with it so masterfully. And this is why we weave together in these workshops. Do you want to say anything about your connection to the energy?
Well, I can backpedal and say that it was through the Stargate work that my own experiences of childhood sexual trauma started to arise. And it wasn't in a scary way. It was in a way that felt so sweet and supported. And I felt guided. And I was guided to get some extra support from a somatic therapist who has left her body. She is truly an angel. And I was introduced to embodiment, somatic healing work, and the world and field of trauma. And Alcazar was guiding me that I did not need to actually study this, that I was going to be able to tap into this work and be able to share it with the world. But because I have that part of me that loves science so dearly, loves understanding everything in a very linear, rational way, I went and did some master's studies and training around trauma. And while I was doing that study, I was visited by a woman who came to me and told me that the angels had a message. And that message was that I was going to work with my lineage, and that my lineage was going to work through me, and that we were going to write together. But it wasn't me that was going to write, it was the lineage, and that I was going to do this work in the world based on this collaboration with my lineage coming through me. So that was weird in a sense, but also really inspiring. And I felt that connection. And so fast forward to the moment that I was introduced to this essence of life work. And there was a switch turned on. There was something inside of me that knew that this is what I was waiting for. I was almost, in a sense, given permission to get in touch with an energy that belonged to the sacredness of my pristine, untraumatized, super conscious child that was within me. And I could feel this whole lineage in a way that felt so surreal. It felt like it was holding a torch of truth. And so that was just the beginning. It was this idea and just a wonderment. And when I began just working with the essence of life, it became this tool or this energy that was able to give me permission to feel parts of myself that had been repressed inside me, as well as my ancestors. And what I realized was that it gave me the capacity to experience what I like to call the full spectrum, the full totality of what the goddess is representing. And so when I first started working with it, and I actually went through a pretty deep grief portal around it that led to all of this healing around relationships and sexual energy in my personal life, as well as what I saw happening in the collective. And a lot of the the dormant parts of ourselves can show up as distorted, and then they get that from there move into this divinity. And it wasn't necessarily about me becoming more sexual. It was about me becoming more embodied, me becoming more full and fluid. And so this energy, it gave me, it was almost like sending me on a journey to touch what beauty was, to access what magic was, and what this, I like when Jules describes it as the flip side of the coin from sexuality, because so many of us have been so programmed as to what sexual energy is that we don't realize that this is an opportunity. It's almost a key that unlocks an embodied experience. So when I say embodied, I would refer to this idea of gnosis, this knowing. And when you are in touch with that knowing, there's nothing that can take you away from that again. And when we can find that within us, it can again be used as a way to, dissolve and ease and bring comfort and soothing to these constrictions and these limitations and patterns that hold us back. And as we know, with all of the changes occurring on this planet right now, we are finally being given permission to cultivate and come in touch with energies that we have not been able to express because of that, the oppression, the patriarchy, whatever term people want to place on that. And just because that's the evolution of consciousness and where we have been raised to and the opportunities we're given. So when I work with the essence of life, it's always like, I always start with the mystery of, okay, I'm just going to sit and focus on it. And it leads me to these experiences that are beyond imaginable. Just focusing on the essence of life, for a few days, and it's without any agenda, I was able to see in a dream what it felt like for when human beings are going to fly. I mean, it was bizarre and amazing. And so I'm like, what? Wait a minute. And when I've held sessions for people, just aligning with the energies of the essence of life, where I'm just holding the space and giving permission, the experiences people have, these self-created orgasmic experiences that are just so pure and so pristine and so full of vital life force energy, it just feels limitless. And the only thing I could say is that it's an embodied experience. So I hope that answers your question.
I love what you're saying, because you're literally drawing a source energy into your body. And this is the essence of life, is it's working with the felt sense of the body. And I know that word because of you, Michele, because you've studied embodiment. And yet it's like how Alcazar has been guiding it from the start. It's like, as I was feeling these aches and pains, it's all about like the sensations on the physical level, and then the sensations on an emotional level, what kind of a charge is there. And literally this essence of life is like sprinkling stardust over all of it. It's like such a radically beautiful field that it starts to dissolve everything that's not truly your core essence. So this is how this like phenomena works. So yeah, this is why I love working with you, Michele, because it's so on point.
And this is why I chuckle and like, what, this is why Alcazar was telling me I didn't need to go and study this stuff, that I was going to just come through me. but I'm glad I did, because now I have a whole language and terminologies and and a movement behind all of it. So yeah, I mean, if I don't know who I would have been if I didn't find this work, because I like to think, if I can describe it in some way, it's like a child's coloring book where the pages are just these drawings or these outlines, and then you have to fill in. It's like when you touch the essence of life and you're just blowing the energy into it. It's like you're coloring that page. You're bringing life and beauty to that page. And so it's this way of getting in touch with the nitty-gritty parts of ourselves. And when I work with Isis really emphasizes that in order to ascend, we have to descend. And that is what the goddess is about. And it's part of why she was eradicated, because no one wants to descend and look at some of that darkness and be confronted with shadow. So when we get to work with these types of energies, we're not bypassing the gunk. We're getting a tool to be able to work with it and dislodge it a little and find creative resources. And this is one of the most pristine, powerful creative resources that humanity has to offer, or that the cosmos or the universe has to offer us as we move through some of these gunky things and get to experience more and more of who we really truly are.
Wow, you guys, I'm overwhelmed. Thank you, Michele. You're so beautiful. Jules, you're so beautiful. And what you brought forth is so beautiful. I had a vision while you were talking about the gunky stuff about Drano coming down the drain and just, I mean, obviously not Drano, but, it's just so beautiful to be able to release the gunk. You described it so beautifully. And Michele, I know, you've been here to my center and you've talked before and you brought in Isis. And so I know that you embody this so well. And Jules, you also, it's been such a pleasure today to talk to both of you. Michele or Jules, if you have some last words, I'd love to hear them.
Beloved one, you have invited Alcazar to speak. And so we would love to take the opportunity to introduce ourselves. We are Alcazar. We are the guides of this Stargate experience. Our focus here on your planet Earth is in assisting humankind in reawakening. We say reawakening because you have lived hundreds of lives. You have lived lives even beyond this planetary Earth, this planetary system. And beloved ones, you have been enlightened before. This is why somewhere deep inside of you, you already know what it is like to live your true essence. So if you simply drop into this knowingness for a moment, we are speaking to the part of you that is already superconscious. You feel sometimes so limited. So in your human issues, your human problems, this is understandable. It is actually part of what you came here to explore. You came here to explore the nuances, lifetime after lifetime, of a kind of adventure in consciousness. And now you are reawakening. Now is the time that you can accelerate far more quickly. This is why we are creating opportunities like this event in the island of Kos in your Greece, where 1,000 people are coming together. Why do the numbers matter? It is because every single human being in that room, physically there together, and those who will be tuning in the live stream, which will be broadcast, you are all receiving and amplifying energies from the beyond. And so this series, this podcast is called Beyond Being Human. What occurs when you come together and you create such a vast energetic field is that you potentiate a kind of spontaneous awakening. This spontaneous awakening takes many forms. It can take the form of a rebalancing on the physical level. These things happen. They are not uncommon. The spontaneous remembering can take the form of stress dissolving. But the most common form that this takes is a sudden re-remembering of who you truly are as you vibrate in your natural state, as the human mind expands into the highly energized, highly potent frequency that is the background energetic of your universe at all times. What the Stargate is doing is creating an amplification of the multidimensionality of your universe. And so it can draw your human awareness into a state where you suddenly feel at one with your own larger self, the part of you that has never forgotten, the part of you that will always remember. Beloved ones, you are so precious. And we have said this so many times, but we wish for you to truly hear it. The fastest way for you to change your world, to impact humanity, is through your own authentic journey back to self-love. And to know yourself truly is to love yourself, because as soon as you catch a glimpse of who you truly are, you cannot help but to fall in love, because your natural vibration is super conscious, super intelligent, super loving. And so, beloved ones, we thank you for being here this day, for hearing these words, and we thank you for your journey that you are on toward knowing self and uplifting your current systems on this, your planet Earth. So if this one, Isis, has something to say.
Dearest ones, this message from your Alcazar indeed is the true reason why we are all incarnating on your planet right now. Yet, for most of us who you like to identify as multidimensional beings, as gods and goddesses are indeed living energies that wish to be infused and embodied into the experience of what it means to be human. And for this process to occur, the energetic and physiological systems must be transmuted. They must be changed. They must be, how do we say, trained in a sense to incorporate and integrate more refined energies. So it is quite known that when you take these human incarnations and you journey on the path of awakening, that a lot of these, how do we say, road bumps, these limitations, these patterns show up in you. And dearest, you are a unique individual expression of the divine. Yet, this is rooted in a collective energy, in a cosmic energy. So what is in you is also an aspect of the totality of your human experience. When you move through a limitation, when you transmute the energies of inner child patterns, of what you call your trauma and abuse or grief, or some of the more intense energies, you are not only waking up to more of who you truly are, you are indeed bringing back the cosmic balance between these positive and negative polarities. No one needs to do this work alone. And this is why we offer these tools. This is why we come in contact with you, to lead you into your own darkness and have it transmute into light. And isn't it wonderful to know that even as you face your own darkness, you can be supported and loved, and do it in a way that can be a bit more, we will say, celebrated. And this is what using these types of energies, like the essence of life, does, dearests. It gives you an opportunity to feel parts of yourself that you have been pushing away. And at the same time, filling that space, that part of self, with what we like to call the golden illumination, the golden shadow. Humanity is returning to the gifts, to the totality of the expression of divine feminine and expression of divine masculine. And dearest, there are wounds that lie in between. I cannot make them go away for you, but we can hold you and we can support you as you move forward and unlocking your own divinity. ascension right now is an embodied process. And this is what makes it different than how it was worked with in your thousands of years ago. Because we are asking, humanity is being called to bring the ascension into their physicality. So we love you and we are with you always. And dearest, I will talk with you again. And for those of you that are confused when we change from I to we, it is because the lineage of the goddess does not belong to one face. Thank you.
Thank you, Michele. At this point, I can only say I am full. I honestly have nothing more to say. I'm just kind of sitting here in a beautiful space, very, very full and very feeling this essence within me. So thank you so much again, Jules. Thank you so much for bringing in Alcazar.
Thank
Go
you for
ahead.
the work that you're doing in this podcast, but also the mastery that you are stepping into in your own right, and what you're sharing with the world is beautiful.
It's like we don't know where we're going. We're just going, and it's exciting and beautiful. And I feel maybe like you do, all of us, we're just heading into something really beautiful and unknown. And I thank you again. So I can only say namaste. I will see Michele soon. Thank you again for taking your time to be with us today. I so appreciate it.
Thank you, Diane. Thank you,
Dear
Jules.
friend, I will see you soon. Hopefully back here at the center. Everyone wants you. Okay. Thank you.